Okay, so just stay on for a minute here. Okay, this is a meeting of the Drum Point Property Owners Association's Board of Directors. Call this meeting to order. Robert's Rules of Order are used. Please do not speak until recognized by the chair. And this meeting is being recorded. And note that Kurt is on by telephone.
Yes.
Okay. So. Now, I'll just
Want to go right to?
President's remarks, real quick. I'm sure everybody is aware that we lost one of the stalwarts of our community this last month. John Gray passed on Saturday the 7th of February. John led the community and served on this board for 7 years. He did a lot for the community. He worked tirelessly. He did doing a lot of work himself, helping others, visiting sick people, sometimes people that he didn't really know very well. He delivered rain barrels of his own time. He spent a lot of time cleaning up after storms as a volunteer, and he was always working to make our roadways safer. He worked hard on getting FEMA funding after we had a hurricane come through. He went alone, but he worked on that. And he did a lot on setting up the policies and procedures manual. In the use of using ArcMap, which RIA uses almost daily. So, our property cross-reference software is what that is. And of course, helping with getting the STD renewed. John was the kind of person that would have been embarrassed by any praise, because that's the kind of guy he was. But I just wanted to recognize John's service. He's not the only one that's done a lot of service to his community, but he certainly was one of the ones.
Yes.
So that's all I'll say about that. John will be missed. I met with Ralph Swartwood just a couple of days ago, and to talk about what the club would like to, or is thinking about doing to work with us to offset the bill that they have in their hand. He had a few ideas. One of them was residents, DPPOA residents, could be invited and attend and for free 2 movie nights a year, I assume in warm weather. The club would probably provide food and ask for a donation. He also suggested a picnic and another day of activities, perhaps with a band, where DPPOA residents could attend. We talked briefly about the sign at the entrance at Beretta Road, and that would be, they would not charge any fee for the placement of that sign on their property, or go for back fees that may or may not be due. Additionally, he thinks that the club intends to, according to him, they are going to post the property as a nature preserve. Right now it's a forest preservation area or something.
Some of the lots are in forest.
Right.
But not nearly all of them.
Well, he's thinking the whole area could be a nature preserve. I asked him, is that just going to be posted, or would it be legal action to make it set aside? He said for now it would just be posted.
Does that have some meaning for anybody?
Well, if it was if it had legal status as a nature preserve, it would be hard for us to argue that we should treat them any differently than SCLT.
Well, that's what Max, I think, is getting at.
It's one thing to post, but
Posting something doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
I
What does it mean to be a,
Well, that's why I asked the question, are you gonna do more than post? He said he'd like to, but right now it's just posting.
well, it's kind of like illegally posting something you aren't.
Well, if you act like a nature preserve, you could be a nature preserve, but it's not.
A private nature preserve.
That's right, yeah. So, they have set aside July 3rd and 4th this year to be jointly used between Drum Point and the club. The 3rd to be set aside for a movie night, the 4th, the whole day set aside as a picnic day to roll into fireworks for the July 4th. So residents could go to the club for a picnic during the day and stay for the fireworks that night. I asked him, well, how are you going to discriminate, how are you going to tell who's what? He says, well, we would ask you to give us a list of people who live here, and when you come to the gate, you get checked off.
Or they could use their hang tags.
Well, I suggested hang tags, and he thought, no, well, you know, nobody uses those stupid things. So, it's true. So that may not work so well. I'm bringing it to the board for your consideration. We're going to talk about it some more. He's got to go back and work with his board some more. We'll see, but we're off to, at least there's something. Yes, Max?
What is their purpose in doing this?
Well, they want to offset the dues, the fees.
But not for asking donations, they're gonna have to charge fees, or they're gonna have to recruit members.
Well, that's their business.
What are they trying to do? I mean,
Well, what they're trying to do is come up with something that would be attractive to Drum Point property owners, to allow them to be on club property and have that as a reason to offset the fees we're charging. They want
The
to
covenant
not have
fee
to
and the
pay the
assessment.
fees. That's the
don't.
purpose.
Drum Point property doesn't wanna pay the fees.
Correct.
Ah, well, now we're getting.
Well, we've been talking about this for a long time. So that's, you know, that's what he's come up with so far as a way of offsetting the fees.
By allowing our residents to come in. I
On restricted times.
think they better look into their bylaws.
Well, it'll be up to this board to decide if this would be acceptable and to what extent it would be acceptable. But we're still working on it. They haven't paid anything. Okay. Fran, thank you. Fran is here, and so we still have a quorum, and you can drop off if you really want to, Kurt.
Well, I will just a moment. I just want to say you were talking about. I think you were talking about the Drum Point Club and their attempts to try to reorganize themselves. Is that correct?
Well, no, I was talking about the offerings that Ralph was bringing forward to me in a personal meeting I had with him to offset the fees and the covenant fees and assessments from the association to the club.
Okay. Well, I guess I would just say one thing. I would just suggest that people allow Ralph to make up his own decisions and not to try to make second guess what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's just simply a courtesy to him and to the Drum Point Club. So I think we should stay out of that until he has something that he really has something to announce.
Well, you know, in the conversation I had with him, he wanted me to bring this forward to the board so that the board as a whole would know that we are talking about it, we're doing something. But thank you, that's good input.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. All right, you can, you know, do whatever you want. You can stay on or you can drop off, I don't care.
No, I'll keep staying on until our dinner is delivered.
All right, that sounds
And
fair.
if you hear me crunching, I'm sorry.
Okay, the only thing, still in the
I could
president's,
get my dinner delivered in this weather here.
still in the president's remarks, I did meet with the nominating committee, and, which is a bit unusual. The president doesn't normally meet with a nominating committee, but the nominating committee was having a hard time organizing itself to understand what they were lost. So I had a meeting with them and I reviewed the documents they give them guidance to help them understand what they had to do and set them off to do their job. We do have 3 people, we had 4, one had to withdraw, 4 people on the nominating committee, and we have 5 potential candidates today. So we have 3 openings and 5 candidates. And that is all I have. Public comment. Peter, Len?
The only comment I want to make is, you mentioned the entrance sign as being on the club property.
It is.
That corner is a club property?
Yes.
The other side of the street is club property.
And that corner,
That corner is that?
Yeah.
it's
It's
a
one,
weird plot.
it's one parcel.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Peter?
Well, I just want to agree with where Ralph and you are going. I think that the primary clients for the Drum Point Club are residents here. And for years, we've not tried to get some synergy of melding both the interests of this Drum Point Association and the club. Since it's a natural blend, I think that if we can find, as Ralph and you are doing, over the long term, and I'm talking 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the way, and even 20 years looking ahead, that inevitably the goals of these 2 organizations should be, in my opinion, intertwined to be mutually supportive. And I think it would be beneficial both to the association and to the club to find ways, not of becoming one, but of finding, if they want eventually, 30 years from now, a way of using their mutual resources to mutual benefit is what I think. So I really applaud this effort. I'm a member of both organizations. I admire those who have, like Fran, who spent many, many years working on the Drum Point Club, and others who have been members for many years. I think that there's something that we can bring together. I look at it also from a safety and a security point of view, but we've learned here on our beach some things, and we can carry over some of those to the club. In other words, we should be mutually supportive, not necessarily legally entwined, but we can certainly work for ways and be creative to help each other out. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of January 2015. I have a motion. They were sent out some time ago.
Move to approve the minutes.
A second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? None? Very good. Rhea, office update.
Everybody knows, statements have been mailed out. The access database is nearly complete. As I said, statements were mailed on the 26th. I'm working to update the office manual all the way around, but once access is fully up and operational, I'll be adding some additional things to it. And when I say it's not quite up and operational, Mr. Edmondson was here today, and we worked on creating reports, and he'll be here again on Thursday. So kind of reviewing what kind of reports I need to be able to print and access. Transition went pretty well. The response has been mixed. A lot of phone calls from people. They wanted clarification on the statement, tax ID, as Max was talking about, and whether all fees are mandatory and so on. Overall, when you explain to people the reasoning behind the board's decision to change the fee structure and so on, people are overwhelming, I don't want to say overwhelmingly, but they seem to understand the reasoning behind and what the goals are, so that's kind of a good thing. Payments are being received, and I should have a report ready I will have a report ready in time for next meeting with regard to how much accounts receivable is and how much we've received and so on. The newsletters, spring week newsletters in progress, and the deadline, tentative deadline anyway, is March 18th. Hopefully to process it the following week. It'll be 4 pages unless somebody has a lot of input or something larger. And the last thing I have is I am escaping to Phoenix April 14th through the 21st.
Good for you.
That's it.
You what?
I'm going to Phoenix
Oh.
April
good for
14th
you.
through the 21st.
Good for you.
When's the membership meeting, isn't that? the
March
week before?
28th, March
Oh, it's-
28th.
So the newsletter will barely get to them.
True, but there aren't any votes scheduled, so it's no,
In
there's no
in
need
fact,
to
it may
have
not
it.
make it at all.
That's why I said tentative date, but there are no votes scheduled.
Well, that's weird, I'm gonna be going at the exact same time.
Oh, really? Well, then you can't watch my dog for me.
No, I can't. We'll have to work out who's gonna watch The Office.
I didn't think to call you.
Okay, thank you, Rhea. Any questions for Rhea? Okay. Roundtable, Max, we'll start with you. You got anything?
No,
You got anything?
no, don't think so. Everybody should be busy with tax time right now, that's about it.
Definitely is tax, yeah. Fran, how about you?
I mean, I don't have anything to report. I have done my taxes.
I can report I have not even looked at them.
I can report I'll be making an appointment with Matt shortly.
Okay, Amy,
Nothing to report.
okay. Aubrey?
Are you taking care of the roads? Well, after they did snowed in Solomon's Island, Dubai, and everywhere else in the world, they put it all in front of my mailbox.
Okay, duly noted. So that's Pine, what's the name of that street, Pine?
Lake,
Lake,
Lake.
Lane.
Lake Place, Lake Lane.
I wish you'd have called me, but,
Yeah,
okay, we'll
did you
make,
call at the
we'll talk
time?
to him about it.
Huh?
Call at
His
the
house
time,
is on Laurel
Oh.
Way.
but we'll call him back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did have a couple, I'll come to you next, but we did have a couple of situations where not all of them were valid. People called and complained that their driveway had been plowed in, but it's not reasonable to expect that if you live where your driveway is perpendicular to the roadway, that you won't get plowed in, you will. But in cul-de-sacs and the ends of the street and stuff like that, where we try to make every attempt to have the snow plowed, out of the way.
Well, I shoveled my entire driveway. We have a big driveway. It's not that it's so long, but it's wide. I'm very proud of
Good for
myself.
you.
Trade your driveways.
Didn't hurt yourself, Max. Wait, just a second, Kurt.
Well,
Can I break in?
Hey, sure.
I think I'm gonna buzz off now because dinner has arrived.
Okay, very good.
Okay?
Thanks for,
Okay.
thanks for taking the call, Kurt. All right,
I'll
bye-bye.
see you next week. I'll be back Friday, I hope.
Oh, you should think about that.
you should think, Kurt, you should think about it.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Bye, Kurt.
Yeah, we lost another board member too here, Dawn, she just passed away here recently also. She was a long time on the board, a very active person in the community. She took care of the boat ramp over here for many, many years. Received all of the pain confronting actually non-residents over the use of the boat ramp over there. So she was a loss to the community too.
She had a long battle.
She did.
Okay, so that's all of that, and I've covered up the agenda, and I don't know what we're doing now.
Committee reports.
Okay. Jeff, your report.
Other than that we did just finally receive our grading permit, which I understand you picked up today. I did get a price for the 3 projects, which should have been going out, sent out to board members from ABM, and that was for $82.93, $8,293, which is a pretty reasonable price to me. If the board feels the same, I would recommend it be approved. That's I guess the first thing. And then I did also, I don't know if the board got copies of it as far as the overlay.
I sent that out, but I
Okay.
did not print it for
Now,
tonight.
that's something that, you know, the three storm drain projects aren't really gonna go until late April or early May, you know, 'cause you don't wanna do this work until you can, you know, get some grass growing immediately behind. And the paving proposal would be something that would go out to bid, but also not at this time. That should go out to bid not for another 30 to 60 days. And the prices that were stated on there are approximate. You know, we may get a break on due to the lower asphalt index with the lower price of oil right now. But no one's gonna bid it to that index at this time, knowing they're not gonna be doing the work for a number of months. So it's better to wait anyways until you're getting closer to when that work's gonna take place. But that could, I don't know if that's something that the board would want to, you know, vote on at the correct time to put out for bid. The only thing inclusive of that, which is not detailed on the scope of work, I am going to include two areas where we have uplifting roots in the pavement, one on Ottawa and the other one, the one over there off of Laurel. Those are the two worst ones. There is one on,
Is that part of this 102K, or is this in addition?
it would be an addition.
Okay.
It would be a fairly small amount, but it's something that we need tools, which they will have. They're gonna be doing milling when we're doing the paving, and so we should try to get them to at least do these two worst ones. There's also one on Deer, which will be taken care of in the overlay. So, there's a few things that are gonna get fine-tuned, but we're looking at that as the bid proposal and the scope, out except for that, which will be added in, and it'll just be a matter of putting it out at the right time.
Okay. I purposely didn't print out the overlay for tonight,
Okay,
because I knew we don't have to vote on it tonight.
right.
I wanted to focus on this storm drainage work. We do not have to vote on this tonight. I have reviewed, I'm hoping that the rest of you did as well, reviewed the work, the scope of work for these three projects. One of them's a pretty good sized project. The one at Bay and Bayview is a fair amount of work. I agree with Jeff that it's a reasonable price. So having said that, do I hear a motion in regard to that? No? If no motion, then this will wait till next month then. Oh.
Before we talk about a motion, we're not putting this out to bids, but we have an estimate from,
Yeah, it's not printed out here, but I want to have it. It's 82, yeah. Came from ABM.
Here's
a copy of it if you want to see it. It was 82.93 from
I
ABM,
have it somewhere.
and it was sent around to everybody.
ABM is not the company that did the small repaving jobs here and there that we were not happy with.
No.
It's a different company.
Yeah, that was an asphalt company.
And you feel confident with this company?
Yes, you know, we used to use ABM quite a bit around Drum Point when I first came on, and
Right.
they started getting a little bit expensive on some of their jobs, and so I elected to go look. We did some lump
Right.
projects which we bid out, and I kind of landed in on Skaggs, who
Right.
got a lot of smaller projects because they were giving us better prices. Skaggs has gotten a little busy and a little bigger, and their prices, I noticed, nudged a little bit on the last project, so I went back to ABM to get some numbers. They've been giving pretty fair numbers the last couple jobs they did for Drum Point. So, yeah, I think the number is fair and reasonable.
And I'll remind everybody that ABM did the job several years ago where we replaced all the under road culverts or
Yeah,
storm drains.
they did good. I was surprised we didn't stick with them the last,
What else?
Bidding process.
Okay,
well,
well, this
you
one's
like to-
low enough that we don't have to go out for bid, and
Right.
it's a long draw, and it costs us money to go out for bids, so.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't act on it tonight, since even though it feels like the depths of winter, it's, spring is right around the corner, and I think these people are gonna notice their drainage problems more, so, I move that we, act on this bid.
Has it approved the bid?
Yeah,
Do I have a second? I'll second it. So let's discuss it then. Is it that?
Which bid are we talking about again here?
8,200.
The ABM to do the 12853 Bay Drive work.
All three of them, all
places.
three of these projects.
Well, now it's all three of them for
It has been all along.
83.
Yeah.
So we only mentioned one of them, so.
Well, yeah, I did talk about the first one, the Bay Drive and Bay, which is, it's a fair amount of work.
That's the largest one.
Yeah, the other two aren't very big.
Well, it's all three.
Yeah, it's all three of them. We've been, Jeff and I, you guys don't know this, but the Rose Committee and Jeff, and specifically myself, have been working on this almost all winter. Trying to decide, and the Rose Committee had a meeting with Jeff, and these projects were bubbled to the surface as ones that ought to come forward, and are recommended by the Rose Committee to be brought forward for work this spring, so.
Call for the vote.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of awarding the contract to ABM, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, good. Well, we don't have to worry about that next month.
Good.
Okay, next is the road committee report. I'm sorry, are you done, Jeff?
Yeah, that was all I had
Okay.
this evening then.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if you don't, I'll duck you out.
Thanks.
All right, good night, everybody,
Good
thank you.
I know where you live, man, I'll give you a call.
I got your number.
And Jeff,
Roads committee, well, the snow has been falling, the ice has been accumulating. It's been cold, and we've had to call our snow plowing people many times. I was really surprised, and they were just little ones. Most of them were, $3,000 to $5,000 bills, but we've had to do it several times. So we've spent our budget, $30,000. Actually, we've overspent it because I expect another $3,000 bill for the last, Sunday. Might be as much as 6 because they salted twice. But that'll come in, and now we've got this specter of another snowstorm on Thursday. So we're gonna overrun the budget. It just is what it is. The good news is the STD budget has, the STD account has, or there is money in the STD to be able to cover this. However, for every dime we spend on pushing snow, is a dime we won't have for repaving come the spring. So, another reason not to, we'll talk about repaving yet, because we don't know what our money's gonna be yet. By next month, we'll have hopefully some idea, a better idea. And I will try to distribute that to everybody before the next meeting, so that you'll have that in your hands. We did have some complaints about the snow plowing. Most of them, frankly, were without merit. The couple that were with merit, though, one of them was somebody on Lake Terrace. Somebody parked their car right in the middle of the road right at Beretta. You couldn't get a snowplow by it to plow it. And then they called and complained that we hadn't plowed the road.
Is it the same party?
Yeah, it is bizarre. Anyway, and then we, in the last ice storm, someone called, that's on Lake Terrace, called again and said, you haven't salted both sides of the road. I can't get out. And so Lake Terrace has 3 houses on it. I'm wondering how much traffic there was that you couldn't drive on one half of the road to get me out here. But whatever, luckily it melted right away, so it wasn't a problem. Also, we did plow in a couple of places that we shouldn't have, and we went and took care of them. So either myself or the snow plowing people circled back and took care of them on the fly. I was in direct contact with the crews the whole time. So for all the events, and we'll continue to do that as long as I'm here. And that's it for the road committee. Finance, Amy, you're in.
Okay, you already know, we've been talking about the 2 major, sort of one-time only bill areas to hit us. So if you look at your profit and loss budget versus actual, if you go to page 2, we had budgeted over $7,000 for the covenant fees for bush hogging and tree trimming, and then on page 4, shore funds we had budgeted 10K, and STD on page 5 we had budgeted 5K. Again, bush hogging, tree trimming, and Carl Bowen has finished the work and he has been paid. But if you look at the first column, which is debits, because somebody cashed some checks that we gave them, you won't find much. So he hasn't cashed the checks yet. But there are, what, 16,000 that we have paid him. And that's, within the estimate. And so I thought, surely, that since this was 2 months since the last board meeting, you'd actually see that, but it hasn't yet happened, even though we paid him. All right, secondly, snow plowing, we've actually paid out on page 5, if you look at everything, we paid out about 30,000. What you see right now is checks for almost 25,000 have been paid for snow removal, S5700. There's another 5,000 awaiting check, either an invoice or check cashing. I guess we paid them. And then there's another 3,000 for which we have an invoice and we haven't cut a check. So far we have obligated ourselves for, or paid for $33,000. And that's well over our annual average for snow removal. I want to note that not many municipalities or organizations budget for the maximum swing they expect. They normally budget for the average. And so far we can do that because we have extra money still from previous STDs. And we will be cutting into that as Gary said. So that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Amy? Okay, moving on then, environmental, Amy again.
Okay, I don't think you all have seen it, but I've seen an unofficial tally of our electrical and utility bills this fall and winter. And remember, we replaced the water heater, which was heating an anteroom that no one ever went into. We replaced the refrigerator. Did we replace anything else?
Just those two units?
Just those two. And our bills, when I saw the unofficial tally, were running nearly 40%, the electrical bills, below what they had been. So we, as we promised when we budgeted this and brought it to the board last spring, we will be getting our money's worth out of the pittance we spent to do those two replacements. We also expect to see savings in our oil bill because we have better insulation upstairs. But we have to, get through a whole year of oil tank refills.
Yours went up like mine did.
Yeah.
You're using a lot of oil.
I'm looking at the numbers from November on. We've saved it's almost 50%, it's 40% for sure. Just give you one example, and one of the bills was 123 and we paid 73. So the previous year was 123, we paid 73 this year.
There.
So we've already saved close to $300 in just a quarter. So
It's a perpetual
It was
motion
a
machine.
good-
We should replace a few more things and make some money.
yeah, I'm hoping that the oil bill reflects savings in a like amount. We'll see. Okay, moving on. Planning committee, that's me, there's been no meeting. However, I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody that this is March, next month is April, so we're gonna be getting into the budget, because we have to have one. So, I'm sure Amy will be calling a meeting, but first of all, there'll be some back channel stuff between Rhea and Amy for sure about
Just
Getting
tidying up
things lined
what
up.
we've been spending.
getting things lined up for the committee to look at. Okay, safety committee, Peter, you have a report?
Oh, just comment that Vince, who lives opposite the gate, said that they are trying to close it periodically. Joe apparently is down there still doing her duty when she can, and the schedule is still working. Rhea knows more about this than I do, but he said there were some people doing wheelies down there, but we didn't get a report, so we haven't pulled the chip out to see who it was. But yeah, as spring approaches, we're gonna have to sort of talk about what to do about the gate this coming season, whether we wanna do anything or leave it open. So it's something we probably ought to put on the agenda and talk about.
But surprisingly, it's on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, okay, but the committee, members of the safety committee, I'm probably gonna make a couple of changes, if everybody agrees. Simply because I think there can be some other people in, rotate them in and out, but I will make that proposal, perhaps at another board meeting coming up. Otherwise, there's nothing else to report, nothing serious that I know about. I don't know, maybe Gary, maybe Rhea has something.
No, it's been quiet as far as I know. Okay, moving on then moving on to old business, which is the gate, and that's been brought forward, and it's been a long time since we had a meeting. But we talked about, there was a proposal to leave the gate open during the cold winter months. Well, the cold winter months are almost gone. The whole idea was to give a break to the volunteers that opened and closed the gate. I'm not sure that it has any value now because it's going to be warm here shortly. But I will tell you that the gate is broken again. I think it was basically a cold weather thing more than anything else. The latch snapped. Could have been an age-related thing too, I don't know. Right now it's being held together with a heavy-duty bicycle thing. And I did purchase a latch, and as soon as it gets warm enough that I feel comfortable with it, I'm gonna go down there and see if it'll fit and work. I don't know that it will. But, so that the gate is still an issue. But, so Max, it's,
Well, my recollection is quite a bit different than yours. The motion was made to leave the gate open with a review early at the next meeting, which of course we didn't have anyway. It was not for a certain period of time, because nobody could decide that. And I'm curious as to why the gate has been closed, because we agreed to leave it open.
it's not my recollection. Our recollection was to do nothing, which meant go along with the normal.
Well, we
Process,
passed a
which is-
motion to leave the gate open and then review it at the next meeting to see what it was going to be.
Max, if I,
Go ahead.
as I recall, and I can check the minutes, I think that motion was probably made, but it perhaps was tabled by Dan Mathias, because he suggested we get in touch with all of the adjacent owners, which I did.
And we did that.
And we
Right,
haven't had a meeting
since.
Right.
And I was just suggesting that it's so late in the season, it was never a thought, as far as I know, to have it open beyond the cold weather months. And frankly, with the conversations we have with the people around it, that it was never broached to be more than the cold weather months. And I'm
What
not
kind
sure
of
they would
comments have we
have.
gotten from the people around it?
They were all willing, all but one was willing and agreed with leaving it open during the winter months as a trial basis, but only during the winter months. And one was vehemently opposed to leaving it open,
Okay, so then we didn't do that, so now we have nothing to
because we didn't
compare
have
to.
another board meeting.
Well,
I
when
mean,
we left the meeting, I understood we were gonna table, Dan had wanted to table it, but we agreed that we would leave it open and then review it at the next meeting, which now we haven't left it open.
Basically the same thing. Well, it's on the table now, and my statement was, I think it's a moot point now, because we're at the end of the cold weather season. Now, if you, are you suggesting that we bring it up and,
I don't recall any conversation about cold weather, warm weather. The conversation was that because of all the problems we're having down there and the lack of people to volunteer to do these kind of things, how much we're paying them and doing all these other things, we have never tried anything like leaving the gate open and see what happens. We have a security system in place down there now. We still have the same neighbors down there that can call and complain about things if they see things going on, I'm sure. So we have not tried just leaving the gate open, and that was the whole gist of the motion, was to do that and make our observations. And we have not done that. So I guess I should make a motion again to leave the gate open, at least until the next board meeting for further review.
I would second that. I think it's a good idea. I guess you could say March is chilly enough, if you want to think, you have that as a parameter.
It'll still be cold on April 4th.
So we have a motion.
Swimmers down there.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
I'm trying to think through the process, and this is defeating me. But we did notify the neighbors that this was under consideration.
yes,
And
they
what
knew
was
that it
their
was going to be on the
reaction?
agenda for this meeting tonight. One was vehemently opposed, the rest were all willing to give it a try
We're
during the
talking
cold
about
months
a total
only.
of 10 people?
Tops.
Okay, wasn't that many people,
It-
wasn't it that
The
many?
volunteers all live down around there, and they are volunteers, they are not paid to open and close the gate.
But
That's a whole
I think
different
this
group.
motion makes sense, for a month to the next meeting, I can't imagine I don't have a problem with it.
They were all,
So,
except the one.
Let's hope we don't have a big wave, which might
well,
happen, who
we
knows?
do have the cameras, we do have security measures down there. Fran, do you have an opinion?
I think if it's been successful for a while, I think we could keep it open for a while.
But it hasn't been done.
Oh, it hasn't
This
been
is
done.
the first
That-
time.
That's
even
what
tried
we're
it yet.
discussing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing happened.
Nothing has
It's
happened.
been closed and, and open, closed and
Oh.
open.
All right, so.
So we have no successes to report,
Mhm.
and what concerns me is the symbolism of all things. We're now at the edge of the winter, and it's gonna be warmer soon.
I don't see anybody swimming down there anytime soon.
Maybe it's
We have a
wishful
patch
thinking on
that
my
hole
part.
in the fence.
Well, that's another issue, all right.
All the expenses of keeping it up, and you gotta repair a latch again, I mean, if it broke because of the weather, then it's obviously failing, and it probably means the fence and the whole gate is gonna need an almost immediate replacement. You just can't keep patching up something that falls apart in the cold weather.
I think we're adding a straw man to an already complicated sociological situation.
The security committee would like to have the floor.
I may be wrong, but tell me, Maria, it seems to me that although we have said that we have had it closed, I think for a good portion of this time, it hasn't been closed because it's been broken at various times. So I think it's sort of a mixed result down there in terms of whether it's been closed or opened. Rhea, can you comment?
I don't know that if it's because it's been broken in particular, but I think that oftentimes, I check it in the mornings periodically, once I send a schedule out, just to make sure that the schedule got, people, into people's minds. And oftentimes it hasn't been opened, so I open it. And I think though also what's happening is it's not getting closed sometimes, because for whatever reason, people forget, they're busy and so on. So it remains open. I think there have been some times when it's just remained open. I don't know because it was broken, more just because
I don't
people
think we
forget.
can draw any big conclusions from this winter. I mean, to put it frankly, I think it's hard to say. We have had some wheelies, we've had cars down there doing ruts and things. And I don't know whether on a day-to-day roster, whether we can say by having it closed this winter and deciding not to open it, that that's going to prove one thing and another. I agree that it would be interesting to see what happens in this period of seasonal change, to see telling the volunteers, knock it off and let's see what goes on. It'll be interesting, but then they have to report to us if there are incidents so we can pull the videos.
Well, we can pull the videos anyway.
But,
In
I
fact,
mean,
we will be.
I thought you were monitoring the videos.
No, we swap the videos out on a every 2-month basis. And if there is a need to go get them, we go get them. But we pull them out and we look at them every 2 months. So if you want to call that monitoring, that's what's going on. Well, I'm going to call for the vote on this. Let's see, all those in favor of leaving the gate open to our next board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, so why don't you get with,
So that was Amy.
Dissent. Yes, Max?
I'd like to make another motion too, that the safety committee or those involved report to the board of directors each month with the kind, type, and number of incidents at the beach derived from the surveillance cameras that we have down there, so that we'll have some demographics so that we can talk about
Well,
and understand what's going on down there.
I would suggest to you that it's not necessary because that's it's something the safety committee would do anyway.
I want it done on a regular basis so that we on the board understand what's going on. You ask us about a beach gate and we have no information, we have no observations, no record of what's been going on, whether it was open, whether it was closed, we have none of that. I'm suggesting that the safety committee or the management involved make a report to the board once a month at the board meeting as to the kind and type and number of incidents that are observed.
Well, I hear you, but I'm telling you that's happening now.
Well, I haven't heard such a report.
That's because there haven't been any.
Well,
You
there have
did
been
hear about,
incidents,
you did hear about
except for
when
the
there,
wheelies somebody just talked about.
when there have been incidences, they've been reported here.
Not to the board.
Yes, they
Yes,
have at
they
these board
have been every
meetings.
single time,
Sure they have.
and thoroughly discussed.
So, I would say that your motion is a moot point because it's happening now.
All right, we'll
We
see.
just haven't been any incidents over the winter.
Well, except for the wheelies and whatever.
If you, let me remind you that there was an incidence of a sexual assault. That was reported to the board. And there was some other minor things that happened. They were all brought to the board at the very next board meeting.
And we have no information as to what resulted from those reports.
It's because the police are not sharing with us. But we shared with them. and that's, so. Okay. Where the hell are we?
Finished, I guess, and
No,
motions.
okay.
I mean, we're finished with that.
We have new business. We do have new people on the nominating committee. The nominating committee volunteers that were approved were appointed at our last meeting were Thurland Wilkerson and Vince Verazone. We since have had 2 new people who have volunteered and in fact are serving, and that's June McCall and Jody Frost. And so I would move that we,
That's 4 people?
that's 4 total, except that Thurland for health reasons or for reasons has had to withdraw. So it's really only 3. That we approve those 2 new members of the nominating committee. Do I
I
hear a
so
second?
move.
Okay, you can move and I'll second. Is there any discussion? Anybody would like to discuss it? It's a thankless job and nobody wants to do it, and I thank them for their volunteerism. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I,
Yes.
we've accrued invaluable documentation that the nominating committee uses every year. And I will be working with some others on trying to bring that to the board in the next month or 2, so it can be put into the policies and procedures, and we don't have to hunt around for it in our archives every year. So I'm just commenting.
Okay. All right, the next meeting normally would be Tuesday, the first Tuesday in April, which would be,
The 3rd.
Same thing again.
Remember, there are only 28
I don't
days.
think it's April 3rd, is it?
Yeah, there are 28 days in February, so it should be the same date. Oh, I'm sorry.
March
March is
would be the
different.
same
I'm
dates.
sorry.
April,
March is
Sorry.
I make it to be April 7th,
yeah.
Okay,
according to the calendar in my,
I'm
Smarter
sorry.
than me, fine.
I'm 1 month ahead of myself or behind or something.
okay. Anybody have any issues with that? Same time, same batch? Very good. Public comment again?
Yes, bear
Len,
with me.
go ahead.
I heard mention of raised roots in some roads. I have one in front of my house. I do not want it touched because it supports a very large tree. I hope he doesn't just arbitrarily do it. Okay?
Okay?
I think that the record will show that I am still on the roads committee, but I am not participating and have not been asked to participate, so be sure that I am not listed as part of the roads committee. Okay?
Okay.
I want to compliment you, Gary, on the snow removal and the pre-salting that was done. I think you did an absolute perfect job.
Thank you.
If I remember correctly, isn't March the election of new officers, the March meeting, the election of new officers, the inducted?
They're brought forward.
They brought forward?
The
Do we
slate
have-
of candidates.
Slate of candidates are brought forward, the election's in June.
Do we have a slate of
Well,
candidates?
actually, the election happens,
Are we
it's a
making,
mail
are
ballot.
we making progress on having a slate of candidates? We are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
We have 5 candidates today.
We have 5 candidates? Oh, I thought you said you had 5 on the board.
No.
3 on the board with 5 candidates. Good, okay. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Are we done? Yes.
I'm glad Lynn mentioned that the roots in front of his house should not be touched. And I didn't want to say anything before, but when we do the I guess Jeff was saying that the two route locations, which presumably are not in front of Lynn's house, would be added to the $102,000 job. And I'm hoping we triple check the locations of those routes.
You know, this was news to me, it caught me a little flat-footed. Jeff and I have talked about this for a couple of years, and we've waffled back and forth, that should we cut those routes out or not? And what's it gonna do to the trees? The trees aren't necessarily on our right-of-way. I think what I will do is we'll find an arborist to come out
Good,
and
good.
have a pontification on that before we do that.
May I add to
That's
that?
part of the roast committee. Yes, Lynn?
There was some past discussion about routes, and Jeff at that point said if a route was exposed and there was a tree involved, before they would take it down, they would go to the homeowner and say, will you sign a release that if the tree comes down, Drum Point Property Owners Association is not responsible. I didn't hear that this time, so I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, this is not fully baked yet, so we're gonna have to,
Good.
dig into it a little bit.
Okay.
Max?
I think I've heard mentioned a couple of times now, something about $102,000. Could you please brief us on what that is?
I don't know anything about 102,000.
Andy's mentioned it twice.
Well, you got an email about the paid repaving. I don't think it was 102 though.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know, frankly, I don't
It
know.
was.
It was 102? I thought it was 85,000 or something.
You're remembering 8.2 thousand.
Whatever,
But
it's in your
anyway,
email.
It's in your email.
I don't think I received that. I've received these 3 properties here, but I don't remember one
I'll
on the
double check to
repaving
see
bill.
if
I certainly remember $100,000 expenditure.
Amy, did you get it in the email?
That was his
I sent it to
estimate.
the board then, I'll double check.
It was his estimate of how much it would be.
Yeah, but
Would you resend that
I
email?
will, I will.
And it did not include the roots.
no, it did not.
So we're gonna think hard about that. John
I
McCall and I
think
used to
it-
go around and around about the roots. He wanted
Right.
to take it out, and I'd look at that big pine tree and say,
Yeah, I think it just seems logical to
Yeah,
get
we
an arborist
we
in
should
it.
get a release too. That's good stuff. Thank you, Lynn. We're
I
gonna,
don't think I'd sign it.
I'm not sure everybody would.
Sign it.
Wouldn't sign it.
So
Leave the damn route.
okay.
Somebody else is gonna,
So, I have a motion to adjourn.
I want the
I so
contractor to
moved.
sign it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I
We're adjourned.